Operation Paperclip was a secret program conducted by the United States after World War II to recruit German scientists, engineers, and technicians, including former members of the Nazi Party, into U.S. government projects, primarily for military and aerospace research. Its goal was to leverage German scientific expertise to advance U.S. technology, especially in rocketry, aeronautics, and weapons development, while preventing that knowledge from falling into Soviet hands during the early Cold War. The U.S. feared Soviet acquisition of German technology and expertise. Nazi scientists. Many of the recruited individuals were involved in advanced weapons programs, like the V-2 rocket program, but some had also been implicated in war crimes or used forced labor. Goals 1. Military advantage. Improve U.S. missile, rocket, and jet technologies. 2. Cold War competition. Prevent the USSR from gaining German expertise. 3. Scientific progress. Advance U.S. space and aeronautics programs. Key figures. Wernher von Braun, the most famous recruit. He had developed the V-2 rocket for Germany and later led NASA's Saturn V rocket program. Other experts. Medical researchers and aeronautical engineers. Controversy. Ethics. Many of the scientists had ties to the Nazi Party, and some were linked to experiments on prisoners. Secrecy. Initially, the program concealed the Nazi past of some recruits to facilitate their immigration to the U.S. Legacy. U.S. space program. Operation Paperclip scientists were integral to the Apollo moon missions. Military technology. Advanced missiles, rockets, and jet aircraft development were accelerated. Moral debate. Raised questions about using former enemy scientists, some with morally reprehensible histories, for national gain. In short, Operation Paperclip played a critical role in giving the U.S. a technological edge over the Soviet Union, but came at the cost of ethical compromise. Germany surrenders in May 1945. The U.S. Army and intelligence agencies begin identifying German scientists who worked on advanced weapons programs. The program is initially called Operation Overcast before being renamed Operation Paperclip. Goal: recruit German scientists for U.S. military and aerospace projects and deny them to the Soviets. 1945-1946. Early recruitment. Wernher von Braun and his team, famous for developing the V-2 rocket, are brought to the U.S. under military contracts. Many scientists are cleared for employment despite Nazi Party affiliations. Some had been part of programs using forced labor. Scientists begin work at U.S. military bases, such as Fort Bliss, Texas, and later Redstone Arsenal, Alabama. 1947, Operation expands. The program starts recruiting chemists, medical researchers, and aeronautical engineers. The focus shifts to Cold War priorities, rockets, jet aircraft, and chemical biological research. Some scientists are denazified on paper to bypass restrictions on admitting former Nazis. 1950s, rocketry and aerospace. Von Braun and other paperclip scientists work on Redstone and Jupiter rockets, laying the foundation for U.S. ballistic missiles. 1955, many scientists are transferred to NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center to develop space rockets. Work directly influences the Saturn V rocket, which later powers the Apollo moon missions. However, 1958, NASA and Operation Paperclip integration. NASA is established. Paperclip scientists are officially integrated into civilian space programs. Their expertise helps the U.S. compete with the Soviet Union in the space race. 1959, program wind down. Operation Paperclip gradually ends as scientists are fully absorbed into NASA, military projects, or private industry. By this time, hundreds of German scientists and their families have been relocated to the U.S. Legacy. Scientific impact. U.S. rockets, satellites, and space exploration programs were dramatically advanced. Controversy? Ethical concerns about employing former Nazis, some of whom were implicated in war crimes. Cold War advantage. The program gave the U.S. a critical technological edge over the Soviet Union. Here's a list of some of the most notable Operation Paperclip scientists and their key contributions. 1. Wernher von Braun. Role: rocket engineer, leader of Germany's V-2 rocket program. U.S. contribution: developed the Redstone and Jupiter missiles. Chief architect of the Saturn V rocket that took humans to the moon. Legacy: considered the father of the U.S. space program. 2. Hermann Oberth. Role: pioneer in rocketry and astronautics theory. U.S. contribution: worked as a consultant on spaceflight and rocket design. Helped lay theoretical groundwork for long-range rockets and space missions. Asher 3. Arthur Rudolph. Role: V2 Production Manager. U.S. contribution: led development of Redstone and Pershing missiles, helped establish U.S. ballistic missile programs. Controversy: linked to forced labor during the war, later renounced U.S. citizenship after investigation. 4. Kurt Debus. Role: V2 Launch Engineer. U.S. contribution: first director of NASA's Kennedy Space Center, oversaw launch operations for Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo missions. Hammer 5. Hubertus Struggold. Role: father of space medicine. U.S. contribution: developed life support systems and medical research for astronauts, studied the effects of high-altitude flight and zero gravity on humans. Controversy: allegedly involved in medical experiments in Nazi Germany. 6. Werner von Braun's team members, key figures: Hans Maus, Ernst Stuhlinger, Eberhard Rees, among others. U.S. contribution: worked on propulsion, guidance systems, and rocket testing. Many became leading engineers at NASA. Hammer 7. Other notable scientists: Otto Ambros, chemist who contributed to synthetic materials and chemical weapons research, later consulted in U.S. industry. Klaus Riedel, early rocketry expert, helped develop the Redstone rockets. Walter Dornberger, former V2 project leader, consulted for U.S. missile development. Summary of contributions: rockets and missiles, von Braun, Rudolf Dornberger. Space exploration and NASA, von Braun, Debus, Stuhlinger. Medical and life support systems, Strughold. Theoretical and engineering advances,